He gives a speech last night. He gives a speech today. I used to think fact checks were powerful instruments, Phillips. I used to think that, and they still are for most world leaders, most public figures. Here's a fact check. You said Iceland when you meant Greenland. Here's your secretary. Here's your White House press secretary saying, no, you didn't. And there'll be enough people ready to believe that he didn't, even as they see and hear him say that he did. So I don't know what role fact checks play in this ludicrous universe, but I wonder if you could run through the 8 wars he's just claimed yet again to have ended.
It's actually not always clear what the 8 are because they're so, all over the place. I mean, let's go for the ones that seem most obvious, and then go to the ones that seem to be the most detached from reality. Now, he claims to have settled Israel and Gaza. Okay. Now, is that settled? Is it not? What the hell is going on there is still very much up for debate. But according to Trump, he has settled that war. Even though, of course, in many ways, one of his prime victory conditions was to get Hamas out, but Hamas actually is still there. Yes. So, by what criterion he is claiming that is still an odd one.
Well, and not to deploy undue levity, that would come as news to the families of the 11 people that were killed in Gaza by Israeli forces yesterday, and the 2 killed in South Lebanon.
Yes, it is hardly a peaceful situation. It is a heavily militarized situation. He also seems to have claimed to have brought peace between Israel and Hezbollah.
Right.
Which is really strange. Because Hezbollah still exists. I mean, it was heavily damaged by the Israelis, but it's not like there's been any peace treaty or agreement between the two. That Hezbollah is still there, but that's one of his claims. And then finally, also, if we have the Middle East one, Israel and Iran. Even though the United States is presumably, or at least possibly, preparing more airstrikes against Iran, Trump says he brought peace between Israel and Iran. So those are 3 separate wars that he claims to have solved, all of which are actually, you would say, in different stages of ongoing activity.
Well, and nothing's October the 7th notwithstanding, the ebb and flow of conflict has been in place in all 3 of these theatres for decades. So essentially, he finds himself, either by accident or design, in what could be loosely described as a lull, and he claims that it's a ceasefire that he is responsible for.
You're being logical again, James. Stop it.
It'll never catch
Stop it. He has a rich internal monologue. And in that rich internal monologue, he is making the U.S. government a vehicle to get across the view he has, not the view of the outside. So I'm sure he's being told, yes, peace. You have a Gaza peace board. Yeah. And that's enough for peace. So those are 3 that we know about. Then we get into the international ones outside of Israel and the Middle East, which are even a bit wackier. I mean, there's Azerbaijan and Armenia. Now, what happened is Azerbaijan defeated Armenia in a war. And Trump doesn't even actually know the countries. He often mistakes.
Azerbaijan. Yeah. It's been renamed. It's been rebranded. Sponsored by, I don't know, Pepsi Cola. Is it Azerbaijan that he says normally, or
he sometimes confuses countries in different regions. But Azerbaijan, Armenia,
the president, Iceland, Greenland, Schmeisland. Who cares? It doesn't matter, this stuff.
But actually what happened there, as I said, the Azerbaijanis defeated the Armenians on the battlefield and took back all of Nagorno-Karabakh. So it wasn't that he ended the war. There was a military result.
It's brilliant, isn't it? So if someone could have beaten him to it. Again, not to make light of bloodshed and misery, but, they win a war, and I turn up and go, I did this. They go, yes, another ceasefire for me, Donald Trump. And just don't mention the people who've given their lives both winning and losing the war that's just ended entirely independently of any intervention you might have made. It suits them, does it, to pretend that he played a role?
Well, it certainly suits the Armenians who are desperate for U.S. support. I mean, that's the thing is what he does is he takes advantages of different parties to the conflict. Perhaps that's been most noticeable in the border dispute between Pakistan and India. Now, he claims to have settled that. India and Pakistan had exchanges of fire, perhaps some dogfights, or at least aerial combat a few months ago. The Pakistanis wanted U.S. support at that time, So the Pakistanis actually went and said, oh, yes, Trump solved this. The Indians said, that's bonkers, you're mad. This was not solved by the United States. This was solved bilaterally or temporarily solved. Again, I don't think anyone believes the Pakistani-Indian border is now permanently peaceful. But the Indians have said, this is crazy. This is something that we did with the Pakistanis. The United States played no role in it. And Trump, by the way, got so angry at the Indians saying this that he put extra tariffs on them. So that this is how the inner monologue comes around. And he said, no, I solved this war. And the Indians said, no, you didn't. He's like, well, you're going to have more tariffs till you say what I want you to say.
Yeah.
But in his mind, and the Pakistanis nominated him
for the Nobel Peace Prize.
And that's how he gets often the weaker side in a struggle to not to say, yes, Trump, you are the great man because we want U.S. support. So, that's probably the strangest one, and it shows, I think, the reality of how he acts. But another one quite similar is Thailand, Cambodia. That they've had an ongoing border dispute for decades. And there was some artillery fire. Then that artillery fire ended. The Cambodians, who are the weaker side, Thailand's considerably stronger, basically went to Trump to say, yes, you're responsible, please help us. And then they nominated him for the Nobel Prize as well. The Thais have been not so forthcoming, one might say. But they have to be careful because Thailand's also a military ally of the USA. So a lot of these countries are careful in what they say because they don't want to get the US upset. So how many is that? We have the 3 Israel ones. We have Azerbaijan, Armenia, India, Pakistan.
Let's do my favorite. Let's do my favorite, Kosovo and Serbia.
Yeah, which hasn't actually. This, I think, is referring to his first term.
Right. I didn't know about that war. I missed that.
Yeah,
war.
That war, of course, hasn't been settled. It's still there. But I think he's referring to the fact that there had been some flare-ups of the fighting between Serbia and Kosovo in his first term, and that's sort of a carryover.
Right.
Because, if there's been very little change in his second term now in Kosovo, Serbia, but the Serbs flatter him every once in a while. The Kosovans have need Western military support. So they both try to appeal to him in that. But he hasn't solved anything. That's still there. That goes back to the 1990s.
And finally, I think the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda.
Which is flared up. I think even he admitted, that seemed to flare back up. After he settled it, that seemed to flare up again. And again, that dispute's gone back for decades.
And finally, Robert, finally, Phillips, and I thank my listener, Robert, for this. What about the war between Camberwick Green and Castle Grayskull?
Well, that one is probably one that, he can settle that next week.
Oh, you say that. Thank you. That was brilliant. Just tell us what you make of the events of the last 24 hours, if you want to.
Well, it actually should be the lesson people should not have to learn, but need to. What the Europeans did is not, first of all, you don't give in to Trump ever. You don't kiss his butt, if I can say that on radio.
You just did.
But on the other hand, you don't yell at him. You just use the leverage you have to put him in a more difficult situation. And the European states did that over Greenland. And that actually got a result because he had to back down. Now, it might be temporary. We have to be very careful.
Of course.
This might not be, he might come back. But the Europeans used the leverage that they had quite effectively. They put more troops into Greenland. Trump does not want to shoot European troops. Believe me, that will play very badly in the USA. The Danes and Swedes started selling American Treasury bills or some of their pension companies. The United States does not want that. This is a real no-no.
Was that the key bit of leverage? Was that, do you think, probably if you had to single one bit out, you've got European unity, you've got strong rhetoric, as you say, you've got that lovely tightrope walk between appeasing and resisting. But actually, when the Benjamins start moving, then his ears prick up.
Yeah, I think that, and also the fact that it's polled really badly in the USA, even amongst Republicans.
That's what I thought.
That he on the whole doesn't care about what his non-base thinks. But even his base seemed rather uncomfortable with the idea of the U.S. attacking Greenland. So it all added together. And it was because the Europeans stopped kissing up to him. and actually took positions that made it uncomfortable and difficult to him. So he only either could cross the Rubicon and do something that was politically really unpopular, or he had to fight back down.
Do you want to give your Substack a quick plug?
Yeah, I wrote a piece on my Substack yesterday, where I sort of went through. This morning, where I went through, Trump being put in this uncomfortable situation, and that Europe needs to do this now regularly. That's the key, and that's Britain, which has not done it terribly well.
No, will Europe learn the lesson? So if people just type Phillips O'Brien into Substack, they'll find yours, will they?
Yes, they will.
There we go.